Darkness settled over the neighborhood as night fell, casting an eerie calm over the streets. I had always considered my quaint little house to be a sanctuary, a place of safety where the chaos of the world couldn't penetrate. But that sense of security was about to unravel, torn apart by the inexplicable and terrifying events that would soon unfold. It all began with a simple knock on my front door. I opened it to find my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, standing on my doorstep. Her usually warm smile was replaced by a somber expression that sent a shiver down my spine. "Is everything all right, Mrs. Thompson?" I asked, a hint of concern in my voice. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I need to show you something, dear. It's about your house." Perplexed, I followed her to the back of my house, where my bedroom door stood, innocently closed. Mrs. Thompson motioned for me to approach, and as I did, I noticed something odd. A series of intricate symbols drawn in chalk on the back of the door. "These symbols, they appeared on my door just this morning," Mrs. Thompson explained, her voice filled with a mix of fear and confusion. "I've never seen anything like them before. Do you have any idea what they might mean?" I studied the symbols, my heart pounding in my chest. They were unlike anything I had ever seen. Twisted lines and shapes that seemed to writhe and pulse with an otherworldly energy. They seemed to have been drawn with purpose, their meaning lost to me. "I have no idea, Mrs. Thompson," I replied, my voice shaking. "This is unsettling." As I glanced back at my neighbor, her eyes met mine with a look of shared unease. We both knew that this was no ordinary occurrence, that something was amiss, and that these symbols held a significance that went beyond our understanding. Over the next few days, a sense of unease settled in my home like a thick fog. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside seemed to take on an ominous quality. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something was lurking just beyond the edge of my perception. One night as I lay in bed, the air grew heavy with an unnatural stillness. I couldn't sleep, my senses on high alert as I stared at the ceiling. It was then that I heard it, a faint scratching sound, coming from the direction of my bedroom door. My heart raced as I sat up, my eyes fixed on the door. The scratching continued, growing louder and more frantic, as if something were trying to claw its way through the wood. Dread coiled in my stomach, and I knew that I couldn't ignore this any longer. With trembling hands, I reached for the doorknob, my breath catching in my throat. As I slowly opened the door, a chill swept over me, sending a shiver down my spine. The symbols on the back of the door seemed to glow with an eerie light, casting strange shadows on the walls. And then I saw it. A figure standing in the hallway, bathed in an otherworldly glow. Its features were distorted, its body contorted in ways that defied the laws of nature. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, fixated on me with an intensity that sent a surge of terror through my veins. I stumbled back, my heart racing as I tried to comprehend the horror before me. My mind raced, desperately searching for an explanation. But there was none. This was beyond the realm of reason, beyond the boundaries of the known world. The figure advanced toward me, its steps deliberate and haunting. I backed away, my thoughts consumed by a single instinct: escape. I turned and ran down the hallway, my pulse pounding in my ears. The house seemed to twist and contort around me, the walls closing in as if they were alive. I burst through the front door, my breath ragged as I stumbled onto the street. I turned to look back at my house, only to find that the figure was nowhere to be seen. The symbols on the back of my bedroom door had vanished, leaving behind only a sense of dread and uncertainty. I sought refuge at Mrs. Thompson's house, her kind eyes filled with understanding as I recounted the terrifying events that had transpired. She listened intently, her own experience mirroring my own. "You're not alone in this," she said, her voice a mixture of reassurance and fear. "Others in the neighborhood have seen strange symbols too. We're all connected by this darkness." As the night wore on, Mrs. Thompson and I formed a plan. We would uncover the meaning behind these symbols, confront whatever malevolent force had invaded our lives. Armed with research and a determination to unravel the mystery, we delved into the history of our neighborhood, seeking answers to questions that no one else dared to ask. What we discovered was beyond comprehension, a tale of ancient rituals, of dark forces that had been summoned by those who sought power beyond measure. The symbols were a gateway, a conduit for these forces to cross into our world. And now, the boundary between our reality and the unknown was crumbling. As we delved deeper, the symbols seemed to appear more frequently, a haunting reminder that we were being watched, that the darkness was closing in. The malevolent figure became a constant presence, lurking in the shadows, its presence a constant reminder that we were in its grasp. With every passing day, the boundary between our world and the darkness grew thinner. The symbols seemed to spread, appearing on more doors, in more homes. Fear gripped the neighborhood, and a sense of dread settled over us like a suffocating blanket. In the end, Mrs. Thompson and I faced the darkness head-on. Armed with knowledge and desperation, we embarked on a journey to confront the malevolent forces that had invaded our lives. Our research led us to an abandoned building on the outskirts of town, a place that had once been a hub of occult activity. It was there that we believed we would find the answers we so desperately sought. As we entered the decaying building, the air grew heavy with a sense of foreboding. Our footsteps echoed through the halls and the walls seemed to pulse with a sinister energy. We followed a trail of symbols, drawn in chalk on the floor, leading us deeper into the heart of darkness. The room we entered was unlike any other. The walls were adorned with macabre paintings, depicting scenes of rituals and creatures that defied imagination. In the center of the room, a circle of symbols had been drawn, the very same symbols that had appeared on our doors. And there, in the center of the circle, stood the figure that had haunted our nightmares. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, fixated on us with a hunger that sent a chill down our spines. "You cannot stop what has been set in motion," the figure hissed, its voice a chilling whisper that seemed to seep into our very souls. We stood our ground, fueled by a mixture of fear and determination. We knew that this was the source of our torment, the source of the symbols and the malevolent energy that had plagued our lives. "We will not be your playthings," Mrs. Thompson declared, her voice steady despite the terror that threatened to overwhelm us. With a surge of courage, we began to recite an incantation, a counterforce that we had discovered in our research. The symbols on the floor seemed to tremble, their energy clashing with the words of the incantation. The room quaked, and the figure's form wavered, its eyes wide with a mix of anger and fear. As we continued to recite the incantation, the symbols on the floor began to glow with a blinding light. The room filled with an otherworldly energy, a power that transcended the boundaries of our reality. The figure's form twisted and contorted, and with a final, piercing scream, it vanished into thin air, leaving behind a lingering sense of emptiness. The room fell silent, the energy dissipating like mist in the wind. Mrs. Thompson and I stood there, panting and shaken, but triumphant. We had confronted the darkness, and we had emerged victorious. As we left the abandoned building, a sense of relief washed over us. The symbols began to fade from our neighborhood, and the malevolent presence that had haunted us for so long seemed to dissolve into nothingness. We had put an end to the terror that had gripped our lives. In the days that followed, life returned to a semblance of normalcy. The symbols were gone, the malevolent figure was no more, and our neighborhood was no longer plagued by the darkness that had threatened to consume us. Mrs. Thompson and I had faced our fears head-on, and in doing so, we had reclaimed our lives from the clutches of the unknown. But the memory of those events still lingered, a reminder that there are forces in this world that defy explanation, that the boundary between reality and the unknown is far more fragile than we'd like to believe. And as I looked back at my once quiet neighborhood, I knew that the events we had faced would forever serve as a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable horror, the strength of the human spirit can prevail.